Kate Williams. I am the Chief Exec for Groundwork Northamptonshire, and I am here today instead of Kimberly Lawson, who really heads up this project. Well, it's more than a project, this programme for Groundwork Northamptonshire, because she is on annual leave this week. So if there are any gaps in my knowledge, hopefully I can refer you on to Kimberly for next week and she can answer them in more detail. However, I am pretty au fait with this funding stream, so we should be all right. And we have got Sylvia and Jamie also on the call who have received this funding, and they're going to say a little bit at the end of these few slides about what they received the funding for and what they've done with it. Okay, so it's called Grow, Cook, Eat. And it pretty much is what it says it is on the tin. So it is it's funded through public health. So we're working with public health on this, and it's really recognising the preventative work around healthy lifestyles, healthy food, healthy relationship to food and well-being. And it's really there to encourage groups and organisations to think about growing food, about the skills to cook and the facilities to cook food, and then potentially sessions to bring people together to eat and learn about I don't know, it's not so much learn about, but enjoy and feel the joy of that sort of feast sort of sessions together or eating together in lots of different ways, and the great stuff that brings. So that's the bare bones of it. On we go. So we are encouraging applications from any community groups and not-for-profit organisations. And you don't have to be a formally constituted group. I mean, Sean can probably run us through a little bit more with this, but I think we have had applications from maybe smaller, less formal groups, and there are ways we can arrange to be able to support those groups. It may be that we hold the funding and do the purchasing for you, or so that because it is a really local fund and a local funder, we're up for a conversation, because the main drive is that we get this funding out to support more growing, more cooking, and more sort of healthy eating. So it can include any or all of those aspects. We've done projects around bringing on spaces, particularly around growing fruit and veg or, edibles. But we've also done things around equipment for cooking, room hire for cooking to a point, I think, and equipment. And similarly with the eating, the coming together to eat and celebrate eating. We welcome applications up to £3,000, so from £500 to £3,000. Yeah, that's the amounts. And as well as working towards the Grow, Cook, Eat initiative, so those 3 criteria, your project should also aim to tackle at least one of the following areas. So connecting individuals with green spaces. I mean, Groundwork, it sits so well with Groundwork because we do a huge amount around this anyway as a local charity. So it is about that connection to green space. It's about thinking about how it could be used, whether there are some new initiatives. And I think we're going to hear from Jamie, who will give us a really good sort of showcase on a piece of work around that. Reducing social isolation, so bringing people together. This isn't about one person learning to grow, cook, or eat. It's about the communal side of it. It's about bringing groups together. It's about community assets in neighbourhoods particularly. We want to increase people's nutritional knowledge, so we can help with that. We've got trained staff that can come in and do some work around content and around sort of they've got the trainer models. So if we're putting raised beds in, we can come and do a few sessions with that group to support them in their knowledge about what to plant. Similarly, around the cooking, we are doing various nutritional based sessions across the county, so we can easily package something in to make sure that you are increasing that nutritional knowledge with the sessions that you're doing. Expanding people's cooking confidence and skills. It's low in lots of parts. This project is all about, starting wherever people need to start to encourage cooking. It might be learning about chopping, or learning about freezing things, or making sauces or soups. whatever it is, it's about expanding that confidence and those skills so that they feel like they can cook more. Some of it's also just about talking about food and enjoying that. Improving growing knowledge and skills. So I mentioned previously around some training the trainer or some basic handouts that we can give around sort of growing. We really encourage people to have a go. You know, you learn through doing, and we have various plant sales and things like that going on where people can get hold of stock really cheaply and such. So we, you know, it's all about having a go and getting groups involved in that. Developing skills to support behavioural change in connection to eating a healthy diet. I mean, food is complex. We recognise that. And we do encourage people to talk about food and to talk about how they approach food in their family or within their communities. So we can try and address some of those behavioural sort of approaches around food. So if you can acknowledge that in your grant application, all the better. Similarly with the neighbourhood revitalisation, I think that one's through the green space renovation, you know, renovation of areas to grow more food, but Sean may know more about that one. Okay, so we have got some priority areas, and these have been identified through stats from public health around key areas to focus on. So within the 4 areas within Northamptonshire, these are the details, and we'll share the slides afterwards. So if there's any more questions around where those areas are or who to connect with around them, we can give you some more info. But I think these are a priority. So if you've got a project particularly in these areas, then that will be seen as a priority when we're looking at the funding allocation. The process and the timeline. So as I said at the start, it is a local fund, so you do easily access that friendly and supportive approach and guidance to get your grant in front of the panel. If you've got questions, if you need us to have a visit to help you with the concept, etc., the offer is there. It's a rolling application process, so it's always open at the moment. We would notify people in good time if it were to come to a close, but certainly there is another year to roll on this. Once received, your application will be presented to the funding panel, who'll make a decision on it, and that is people from the voluntary sector and also North Northants Council who make those decisions, alongside ourselves, who would give any input from the work that we've done with you on the run up to the funding bid being submitted. We aim to get back to you in 6 weeks. Hopefully it would be a bit sooner than that, but obviously to manage expectations, that's what we say. And then there is an opportunity to get feedback and resubmit bids. So, you know, it is about getting that funding out to communities. So it's not going to be a hard no. It's going to be a, could this happen? Could that happen? Could we change it in this way to try and get it approved? Okay, so if I stop sharing my screen, I think we've got Sylvia and Jamie on the call. If you want to come back to us from the no camera abyss, and just tell us a little bit about what you've had the funding for, and how you found the process. Is that the remit from Kimberly? Yeah, cool. Anybody want to? You're on mute, Jamie. Is that because Sean's muted you? I don't know. Do you want to start, Sylvia?
I will do, thank you, Kay. The process was smooth and easy for us, particularly with the particular client group we were working with. So KCU holds cooking on a budget classes already here at KCU. However, we'd established a group which was a drop-in for people with anxiety and stress disorders who didn't really enjoy or the thought of doing a cooking with budget class. It was 6 weeks, it was a tutor, it was very disciplined, and it was everything that they couldn't do. In addition to that, they have assistance dogs, 3 assistance dogs within the group too, but they did want to learn how to learn to cook to improve their mood. They did want to learn to cook to reduce isolation. They all live alone. They wanted to learn to cook together, but the constraints around the NNC cooking with the budget course it meant that they couldn't do that. When I'd had the Grow Eat Cook was everything that they were looking to do, I approached Kimberly. In addition to that, the open-ended project. So to get this off the ground, the application was smooth. We co-produced it with the group in themselves, what they wanted to get out of it, what they wanted to cook, what moods they were wanting to improve. That was all embedded in the application form, so it was nice and smooth and co-produced. They had control over it. When it came to introducing the tutor to the team, the group, it really held them back, and we had to move them rooms. That held them back too. So the fact that it's open-ended and we could take a year to get it off the ground really then let us take them at their pace. It started 4 weeks after it should have done, which in other instances, would have meant that we would have been in touch with funders saying, we can't do this, can we adjust? It would have created a lot of work. And with the sensitivity of this group that we were working with, that would have caused them ongoing problems, whereas we could sit down and say, that's okay. Bring the tutor in at your time, sit and write the recipes in your time. And from that, we learned that art was a big part of helping the group manage their anxiety. So we have a mindful art around writing the recipes. So we've been spending some time with them this morning. It's got another 6 weeks to go, and talking about grow boxes, because it could take up to 10 weeks for this particular group to take that on. It really has to be at their pace. So therefore, this particular application was everything that they needed it to be to achieve what they wanted. Other learnings have been such as we did slow cooker cake. So normally with cake, there would be oven twitching every 2 minutes to see if it was rising, and it would really be counterproductive for the cake. But they learned they could put it on for 4 hours and go about their day and still produce a cake. So that really reduced anxiety. So there's a lot of learning each week. We're looking to work with them to see if they become champions in their own right, and possibly train to do their food hygiene. So therefore we could keep going on this project for as long as they want it, and bring in seasonal veg boxes and bring them down to Green Patch. But it will be in their pace, and the Roland project enables that. Also working alongside Kimberly enables us to bring in all the benefits of what Green Patch does and what KCU does, and move it at their pace with this particular client group. If so, that's us overall. We're sort of 10 weeks in, and we're learning so much about what they want from us, which isn't there with the other funding or the other courses that we have here. By this point, it would have closed, and we would have.
Yeah. Thanks, Sylvia. No, that's really helpful. And it is a really good point that it is a local funder. It is about that sort of at your pace and that understanding approach to that. And I should have mentioned at the start around the Green Patch. So thanks for that sort of prompt, Sylvia. But we, Groundwork, do run a Green Patch project in Kettering, which is a 2.5 acre site where we try and do a lot of the exemplar work around this project as well. And it's always a great space to come and visit if you're looking for inspiration around this grant or this sort of funding. Jamie, are you having a technical ish, or are you okay? You seem to have. Sean, is it because you muted everybody? You've muted.
I've not muted myself.
Got it.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yes. Everybody should be able to unmute themselves. And
Sorry,
I'm just saying, we are a small group. So if, rather than typing a question in, use the hand emoji at the top. And folks, do put your cameras back on and come and join the room. So we can see everybody. But yeah, over to you, Jamie. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Good morning, everybody. So the project that we've started in Irthlingborough town, it involved using a small unused back garden, basically. So the Salvation Army have got a church garden that was, it used to have a large building on it. It used to have like a play school sort of thing on it, but it had to be taken down. It wasn't a permanent building, it was like a mobile building sort of thing, but it had asbestos in it, and it was taken down, and then the space was left empty for decades, basically. And so I'd been walking by this space, looking at it and thinking something needs to be done with it. I also know that the food bank is in the Salvation Army space. So I started to see some ideas for links, you know, growing food, giving it to the food bank, getting lots of people involved with growing the food and having a space for well-being within the town centre as well. And it is right in the town centre. It's just behind a pocket park called Rest Gardens. So the space didn't have any fences or anything like that. It was completely open, and there was all sorts of rubbish in there and things like that. So what we ended up doing was contacting the Salvation Army. Obviously we raised a little bit of money. We got some funding from yourselves as well, and the main thing for us has been getting the space ready for growing, which we're just about now at the stage of doing. So the space needed to be cleared. First of all, trees cut down, the ground leveled off, and there was lots of concrete as well. So we did actually get a change of use for the use of the funding to help us with the clearance of the space, which is now done. We've managed to raise a bit more money to get some raised beds, and a local fencer has come around and fitted those. And in the last couple of weeks, we've been getting the space ready for actual growing we brought in 14 tons of topsoil to go in the beds as well. So as far as community goes, it's growing every week. We get new volunteers coming in and helping us with everything. We did form from the beginning a committee. So me and one of the local councillors got together, formed the committee, and what the first people I came to actually to help with this, because I got never done anything like this before, is Green Groundworks, and I visited Green Patch, met Nathan. He showed me what kind of things are possible with the project, which was really inspiring and really gave me a bit of motivation, and felt like I was being supported at the same time by people who knew what they were doing and were equally enthusiastic about it as well. So then after committee was formed, we started doing little sort of guerrilla gardening projects around the town. We raised some money by selling daffodil bulbs in the autumn to local people, letting them know what we're doing and that, and then we got permission to put some bulbs in the space as well, to sort of raise public, you know, the awareness of the local public. And since then, it's been, as I said, it's been about clearance, but we've also got other people involved. That we got some, we also got a little bit of funding from the council, the National Gardening Scheme as well, and the church, the Methodist Church, have also helped us with it a little bit. Obviously, the Salvation Army have helped us with fencing around the outside to get security and things. But we, you know, it is about getting the local people involved, particularly, you know, with growing the food and giving it to the food bank. But we also plan to use the Salvation Army church kitchens as well to start doing some cooking and that when we get some stuff grown. And then we've got to do some fundraising for Pathways. The local youth group is involved, youth club, will be involved. We've got the Scouts, lots of people, neighbours who live directly next to us have been into the garden and helped out, children helping out with planting potatoes last week, which was brilliant. So all of these things combined, are there to help bring the community together. So Earthling Borough has got quite a mixed sort of demographic. I think that's the right word. The people, we've got people living, quite poor people living in the council estates in Earthling Borough, and then lots of other people, you know, obviously living in much nicer areas, I suppose, if you can call it that. But one of our other main things is to get access as well to people, because it's just bare earth at the moment, so we need to get some like pathways. So that's what we're looking at, raising money so that people can come and go safely into the space too. So that's the basic thing. I could say loads and loads more, but is there anything else, Kate, that I need to say to help people or inspire people?
Well, no, I mean, we'll take any questions in a minute, but that is such an inspirational story. They both are, you know, and it's a really good example of how transforming a space, and you're on a bit of a journey with that space, aren't you? You know, bit by bit. But in our experience from Green Patch, that makes areas stronger and more sort of well thought of and invested in if you do it step by step over a few years, you know, and build that involvement and that engagement. So yeah, it's a great example of what you can do with some leftover space, you know, and transform it, and that connection to the food bank, the connection to the cooking space in the church, and all of that. It is, yeah, it's very cool. Very exciting.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Not anybody else, but does anybody have any questions about their idea or about the application process or anything that we can support you with today? Judy?
I was wondering about whether you need some sort of food rating, you know, sort of food hygiene certificate, something like that, to be able to put something on about cooking.
Is it specifically cooking that you're wanting to do?
Well, probably. I mean, I'm from Wellingborough Eco Group, and we've got an allotment, so
Okay.
we you know, we'll be growing stuff. We are growing stuff already, and I had an idea for a project to sort of do preserving and fermenting food,
Nice.
and I don't really quite know where we'd do it yet, but I mean, obviously we'd be growing some food, and we could, you know, when it came into season, we could sort of do some preserving and so forth. But you know, I just wondered about, you know, whether the premises needed to be, you know, certified or something. Or
Okay. Well, in terms of the premises, I'm not. I mean, ideally, yes. I think there's something around it being a space that is used for cooking, and has some sort of standard hygiene around that. What I would encourage you to do in terms of training is put in the application some of the cost to do the food hygiene training for yourself and any of your colleagues, because then you're upskilled in that anyway. But and try and look within your community as to the spaces that there are available. If it's a community centre, for example, it's very much, you know, it's very likely that they will have that food hygiene standard. You know, I think the thing to stay away from is people's kitchens.
Yeah.
It's far better to have a community-based kitchen. And if, again, you need any support on making it, you know, even better, like, does it need a fridge or something like that, then that's the sort of thing that could go into this grant application.
Right.
You know, or any equipment for doing the fermenting or anything, you know, around that. That really is about what this grant is for. So, you know, a
Yeah.
range of those things would mean that you can do a really great project on preserving and fermenting. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And but just like an online course on food hygiene, that
Well,
would be
I
enough,
would.
would
There
it?
is, yeah, there is a high-speed training, and Kimberly can share you the details. There is an online course around food hygiene, and again, yeah, she's probably the best person to tell you about who she's recommended to others, but certainly online,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
because it's about the temperatures and the colours and the chopping boards and all of those sorts of things, which are quite easy to learn through an online session.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any more questions? Jacqueline. Can you unmute? Sean seems to have the power on the mute button.
Oh, I'm unmuted now.
Oh, there you go.
Everybody. Hi, I'm from UK Film School, and we make community films. We're based in North Northants, and I personally have a real interest in healthy eating and cooking from scratch, and I know how important it is for particularly young people. A lot of these cooking skills are being lost. And I also know how popular cooking programs are. So for quite some time now, I've had this idea about a series of cooking programs for people, nothing elaborate, just using cheap ingredients and people learning how to make, for example, spaghetti bolognese or a tomato sauce or just simple basic food. So I'm looking to really partner up with anybody. For example, Judy wants to do some pickling, and I'm very interested in that as well, because it's all about gut health. That's very important as well at the moment. So that if anybody's interested in maybe, collaborating with us to have their cooking filmed into cooking programs that we can then put on YouTube and share the resource. So it's not only for the people who may be at your group or your group, Sylvia, as well. Don't want to miss you out, because I really liked hearing about what you were doing, and Jamie. I mean, I'm very interested in growing, cooking, the whole thing really. So that's just what I wanted to say. If anybody's interested in a potential collaboration, then please contact me at UK Film School. Thank you.
Well, that's great to hear, and I would drop Kimberly a line with that as well, because and Sean's on the call as well, who also has some knowledge of who's received funding for this grant from this stream. So if we can reach out to those who've already had funding, Jacqueline, as well, and talk to them about your offer, that would be good, because I think there is definitely a connection with getting things online and on film and all of that around encouraging more of it. So yes, drop her a line, share your idea with her and see, because she could email out to all of the grant recipients, Jacqueline.
Great, thank you very much, Kate.
Kate, maybe I could jump in there just to pick up a few points. One of the things you mentioned in the presentation was about revitalizing areas as one of the things of what projects can deliver. And I mean, Jamie's picked up on that, haven't you, Jamie, in sense of, an overgrown, derelict piece of space is being brought back to life. Forgive the pun. And being brought back into community. And we've seen other applications where people have used just spare bits of space of land at the front of buildings, where they've then cultivated it to excuse me, to develop something for the community, which includes flowers, but edible stuff, and so all of that is there in sense of revitalizing space and repurposing it for the purposes of growing and producing food, which is what this program's about. But also Kate mentioned earlier about the breadth of groups that we want to encourage in here, and encouraging new organizations that come together with ideas but aren't necessarily constituted. So the work that I do at Groundwork is around supporting groups to become constituted, support them around funding advice and sources. Because whilst this fund up to £3,000 is a welcome sum, when you start developing projects, there's more and more things that you want to see done and to happen, and so more and more money might be required. So there are other funding, and whilst Groundwork might be in a position to help in those very early stages, managing those smaller sums of money within this program to support people, really groups need to get their own bank accounts and get organized, constituted, become proper bodies so that they can receive other funding going forward. So we're here to support in that terms as well. There was another slide that was in the presentation that we never got to, that talked about the funding panel. So, and this was really there just to show that it is embedded locally, but also that it's not a scary place. So the funding panel that receives these applications includes me, for instance, and Nathan, who works at the county council at North Northants Council. He and I are on the funding panel, and we've engaged Jamie to come and join in supporting there, so that there's a grant recipient there, and we receive all of your applications. And we make comments on them. So if there's bits that could be improved, or things that we feel that you've missed, maybe you've put an application in for £500 and we think actually you could spend 3,000. So we'll come back to you and suggest other ways to spend more money. We want to get the money out there. And doing good stuff in the community. So what we're saying is your funding panel is very supportive. It's not a scary place. It's an enabling group who want to see the money spent, but obviously see it spent properly, which is what our role is on the funding panel. So yeah, there you go, Kate. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, Sean, I was a bit trigger happy with bringing the presentation down. But yes, this is it, teamwork on this one. So yeah, are there any other questions? But Sean's absolutely right, and it is about building that network of initiatives around growing, cooking and eating, you know, and we recognise, so Groundwork are delivering a range of sessions around this. You may have seen them advertised, and then the other element of this initiative is to fund other groups to do that. So yeah, Sean? Still muted.
Yeah, sorry. And and important to note that there is a Grow, Cook, Eat programme in West Northamptonshire as well.
Yes.
I think it might be the Hope Centre, is it?
It is, yes.
Who lead on that. So if you're based in West Northamptonshire, there's also a Grow, Cook, Eat programme in West, because it's all funded through Public Health North and West.
Yeah.
Northamptonshire. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, my parting message would be, if you've got any ideas, if you've got any sort of energy and concepts around this, then reach out, get in touch. You know, let us help you with a conversation around what you're doing to formulate this into an application, which will go forward to the panel. So hopefully it's been helpful.